Yo boys, back with another video. Today we're going to be doing a good old-fashioned solo shuffle tier list. Let me know what you guys want to see next. According to Blitz, it could be Blitz, it could be RBGs, could be 2v2 arena, all that good stuff. Could be 3v3 arena. Let me know what you guys want to see next. I will be making a couple of tier lists throughout the weeks because this is the point in time where they get a ton of views. You'll see my other ones probably at like 2 or 3K by the time it looks at this. This is an investment. So the goal is to over the years we build up a community, and then I will, we'll move on the channel to another game. So we'll be building it up here, and then I'm gonna be like doing a bunch of things with YouTube. So we're gonna be doing some solo games. I'm gonna wait until my channel is big enough to where I can go do something else. For now though, we're sticking to WoW, and it's pretty much a long investment for me. So it may take another 12 years, but we'll get there eventually. But let's start off with the good old-fashioned solo shuffle tier list. The first one is always Affliction Warlock, S tier. It's been S tier for about 3 expansions right now. Avi's just really strong, and not only is it really strong, but it's just broken. It's a very now there are a few things that you have to do correctly, um, like porting, knowing when to wall, knowing when to kite. As a caster, casters are originally harder than melees. Now that can, in some instances, it's not. For example, in 3v3 arena, it's a total different ball game. But like, when you're playing with somebody that's lower, or you don't know if they're going to be able to top you, you have to play really good. So casters in general should be better because you have to be better to play them. That might get a lot of cope from some people, but that's just the facts. But Affliction Warlock really good, one of the S tier specs in the good old fashioned game. The next one we have is Demo Warlock. Uh, Demo is just good in everything, so I would say it's A plus tier. It's just really good. It does a lot of burst damage. It does a lot of CC. It is very, very biased. You can't just play with anything and hope to win. You need to get certain comp biased, and that's kind of like with every class. Like if you're a rogue, you want a mage or a affliction warlock or a boomy. Like if you get like for example, if you get like a I mean, just like an outlaw rogue with an assassination rogue or a enhancement shaman with an outlaw rogue. Those can all work, but that's not really your go-to spot line. You want you want basically what's good in threes is what you want in solo shuffle. That's how you know if you're gonna have a good lobby or not. But Demo's still really good. Nice choice. Next one we have is Destro, which is gonna be A tier. It's still really good. It does a lot of burst damage. There are a few flaws that it has. Is it doesn't really do much damage off of his Chaos Bolts. And the problem is Chaos Bolts are so hard to get off in this type of meta because Shamans are the meta. So you're going through ground, kick, knock, stun every 15 seconds. And that's just one person. So you got 2 other people to go through, including healers. It's just disgusting. They have added so much in the game to stop somebody from casting. It's just incredibly hard to play a caster. I will say, like, I respect you guys playing a caster. I play an HO, so I kind of know what you feel, and that's healers in general are the by far hardest, and they get by far the most punished in rating wise and everything else. It's surprising that healers don't get they don't get a reward, but oh well. The next one we have is going to be Boomy. Boomy's easily A plus tier as well. Does a ton of damage. It's easily almost S tier. People are coping and saying it's bad. It's really not. You got 2 versions of Incarn. You got spammable clone. The only thing that you don't have is defensive cooldowns. That's it. But you have everything else. You have the ability to kite. You have the ability to CC. You have the ability to one shot. You have everything. Druids in general are really broken right now because of spammable clones, and they're doing it at such a fast pace that I've seen Wrestle Druids cast it in like not even a second, and it's like 60-yard range. It's insanely OP. But Boomy, really good choice. Next one we have is Pharaoh Druid, which is easily S tier. There are a few flaws with Pharaoh Druid. Defensively, you gotta know when to use your cooldowns. For example, I played with the Pharaoh Druid that was facing a Assassination Rogue, and he trinketed before he smoke bomb, and then he just died in the bomb. If you're a Pharaoh Druid, you have to know 101. Only trinket versus a rogue when it's smoke bomb, because if you do, you're gonna get bombed and killed. Now, I didn't really understand that for a while. It took me a long time before I got used to that. But you will get used to it. You just gotta start doing what people tell you to do, or just whatever they're doing, you follow them. Sometimes you'll end up tricketing before that, and that's alright. But doing the same mistake twice, shame on you. All well though. So The next one we're going to be going over is going to be Wrestler Druid. A plus tier. It does counter H-Mouse, which is a really surprising thing, but just because a class counters that, there are other classes that counter Wrestler Druid. For example, Dev Evoker, Prez Evoker will never lose to a Wrestler Druid. They're purging off your hots every 15 seconds, whether you like it or not. So every time you put full hots up, they're going right down. So although Wrestler Druid's really good cycloning wise, overall, it's not that great. Defensively wise, it sucks. It's really comp biased. If you face an Evoker, you're losing all games. You should never win. It's that hard. Like, that's the counter. And that's why you don't really see that many Wrestle Druids, because they just get hard countered by, like, everything. The next one we're going to be going over is going to be, um, Warrior. Arms Warrior is going to be A tier. I would say it's better than Destro, but that's pretty much all it is. I think it's just a one-hit wonder. It has a good amount of burst damage, but off its burst, it's kind of like it's just a dampener. It's hoping for the best. It's like it has damage, but if it's just super biased. If you're not facing a comp that you can hit 24/7, it's terrible. You just by the time you get your burst and you're able to connect, you're just not able to do anything. So still not the very best. Again, Fury Warrior is just the top dog. You're literally one-shotting people every 24 set. Like you're just killing everything. Everything you hit will die. As an Arms Warrior, it's not like that, and that's why it's not as good. The next one we have is Fury Warrior. Fury Warrior, I would say, is better than Feral, but worse than Affliction Warlock. And the reason is, Fury Warrior just does unhealable damage. And it's so skillless of a spec, other than defensively wise. Like, you can't just run around a pillar and die. Damage rotation wise, it is by far the easiest. It's probably the highest between Fury Warrior and Dev Evoker. And yeah, I'd say those two are the top dogs for damage. Maybe Assassination Rogue, depending on the comp. But those two absolutely shred damage. They'll never lose. So Fury Warrior is a really good option still. It can be a little bit difficult since there's a lot of casters in the game, but still, it is what it is. You can still make it work. The next one we have is going to be Dev Evoker, which is going to be S tier as well. And I would put Dev Evoker in front of Pharaoh Druid, but behind Fury Warrior and Affliction Warlock. Dev Evoker does unhealable damage. I've seen him in so many lobbies, and the biggest issue of a Dev Evoker is their amount of damage rolling out. It's not the fact that they just do burst damage, they do unhealable damage the entire game. It is undespicably, like, it is just insanely amount of damage rolling out. If you face a Dev Evoker, you know what I'm talking about when they're literally doing 6 times everyone's damage. And it could be a 5-minute game. They'll 6 times everyone damage. It's insane. Their damage right now is off the hook. However, defensively wise, they can still die, so they're not number one, but they are really, really good. So that's why a lot of people are playing them now. The next one we have is going to be Prez Evoker, which is going to be S tier. There's only 3 main healers that you're going to see. Disc Priest, H-Pals, and Prez Evokers. You may see occasional Druids, occasional Mistweavers, and Shamans, but those aren't really your best choice. Prez Evoker is probably your, if not number 1, number 2 slot. You got damage, you got purge, you got a lot of healing. You just have everything. You have all 5 components, which automatically makes you S tier. The next one we have is Augmentation, which is absolutely positively garbage. Still playable in the sense that you can click 1, 2, 3 and make it work, but overall, you should never lose to this. It's just RNG. It all comes down to who has the better teammate, because Aug's not doing much. It has its little burst rotation, and then it's useless. The next one we have is Elemental Shaman, which is going to be our number... This is kind of hard. I would say number 2 slot, if not number 1. Elemental Shamans are really broken. And it's not the fact that they just do a consistency, it's their burst damage that's the problem. They're able to kill 3 people in like 2 seconds. That's the problem, and they're really tanky as well. So they're not just a class that, like, they click wall and then they die. No, you gotta go through this, then underground, then they have wall, then they just have so much stuff. They're able to root you, keep you away from them, and kite really hard. Mainly it's their damage, though. Their damage is disgusting. They're a really high class for DPS as well. But and they also don't have a cat, so it's kind of like a Fury Warrior version. The next one we have is Wrestler Shaman, which is going to be A+ tier. Now, it's not going to be better than Wrestler Druid in my opinion, just because Wrestler Druid is able to spam clone. If you guys don't know, if you face a high-rated gameplay of cycloning, you'll know how annoying cycloning can be. It is insanely broken. It's because it's not only it's a take a 1 or 2 second cast, but it's just the fact that it's spammable. So you're able to just cyclone people low. You're able to switch cyclones. You're able to do it 60-yard range, 40-yard range. It's disgusting. However, it's Wrestle Shaman's pretty good as well, so it's behind it, but it's still good. It's still solid. I'd say give it like a 6% buff, easily S tier. It just needs a little bit more healing and a little bit more defensive. Earthen Totem is the worst designed cooldown in the entire game. It's never been useless, or it's always been useless because it's all based around your teammates. And that's all you gotta say. If a cooldown's if your main defensive cooldown for your players or your like a CD that's not forcible, they're just gonna walk right out of it. They're not gonna care, and it's a waste. It's just you're not gonna want to use it. It's not even worth having it on your bars because it does like no healing. The next one we have is going to be um Enhancement Shaman, which is honestly going to be a pretty good option. Actually, it's going to be A plus tier. Enhancement Shamans do a ton of burst damage. Now, it's RNG, so it's really comp biased. It just depends on what you're facing. A lot of the times, though, Enhance can work with a lot of things in solo shuffle because you see so many. Like once you get about 2400, and Enhance can easily win lobbies. They're able to do so much damage, and it's just an insanely amount of damage. The only difference is after its burst, it doesn't really do anything, but during its burst, it's a powerhouse. Still does an insanely amount of damage and really good. The next one we have, Hunter. I would say is probably better than Destro, but worse than Arms. I think Arms is just better. And it's funny because Arms actually does a lot of damage, but it does struggle. Off its burst is one of the worst specs in the entire game. There's no spec in the game that does less damage than an Arms Warrior off its cooldowns. It just doesn't do anything. It just it's just not healable. Like every time I face an Arms Warrior, even at like 2500, they're just like bottom of the leaderboard times two. It's just they don't do any damage off their burst. So Hunter is still pretty okay, but not the best. The next one we have is BM Hunter, which I would say now is right here. So Affy and Ellie still hold the number 1 and 2 spot. BM Hunter is still really good. It does a ton of damage, a ton of burst, a ton of CC, and it has a ton of it has all 5 components. It has CC, defensive cooldowns, offensive cooldowns, um, you know what I'm trying to say. I was about to just list all 5, but I just forgot about all. It has all the components needed: defensives, offensives, um, kiting ability, CC, and that's pretty much it. So it's automatically S tier. The next one we have is Survival Hunter. I would say Survival is actually not that bad. However, it's not going to be able to compete at a higher level of gameplay. The only good thing about Serve is it counters Assassination Rogues and Feral Druids. So maybe just because of that, we can put it up here. I'm trying to think how good it really. No. I just can't. Even if it counters it, it's not doing enough. It does good burst damage, but again, it's like an Arms Warrior. It does no damage off its burst. A class is only going to be good if it literally one-shots on its burst. That's just how those classes work. That's why Enhancement Shaman's higher up. Same with like Feral Druids and Fury Warriors and Ellies, because on their burst damage, they two-shot you. But the next one we have is going to be Mage. Frost Mage is going to be pretty solid. Now, I'd put it behind Boomy only due to the fact that Boomy's just has so much better CC and so much better burst. Frost Mage is kind of just a dampener. You're kind of just there to do your damage rotation, get your sheeps off, and that's pretty much it. Off your burst, you're not really doing much, but you're pretty much just a defensive dampener. That's pretty much it. Still really good though, still playable. You're still going to see a lot of Frost Mages, but that's pretty much that. Fire Mage. Fire Mage is, honestly, I've seen one today be playable. Only one. Only one. I've only seen one of them. Can I? No. I don't believe it's A tier. I feel like it does AoE damage with Ignite builds, but it's again, too biased. Like, you face an Ellie Shaman or a BM Hunter or a Pharaoh or any of the S tier specs, and you're just dead. You're just gonna die in 3 globals. So, defensively, still the worst spec in the entire game. At least it does a little bit of damage now, but no. It's just not gonna happen. You'd have to have a really good healer to keep you up. And then we have Arcane Mage, which is actually not terrible. I would say it's one of the better specs in the A tier. Um, its burst damage is really good. However, its defensive cooldowns and it's really just it depends on what comp you get. If you get like a caster cleave when they're not stacked, you do no damage. You get your little burst rotation, which is good damage, but then off your burst, you're doing nothing the entire game. or you get like a Demo Warlock with pets, and you're just doing infinite amount of damage. It's RNG. I would say it's A plus tier if you can get a comp that's just all stacked together. Otherwise, it's just going to be high, just normal A. The next one we have is going to be Assassination Rogue, which is easily going to be S tier. I personally played it, and I will say, it's really good. It's really, really good. I've went from 0 CR to 2600 in 2 Q sessions. Not on my account. Again, I don't really play on my account, so you just, I played it. It's really good. It does a ton of damage, a ton of burst, and it's just the easiest spec to play. Now, defensively, you do have to play good. I will say you can die in the opener every game if you have to trinket the right things. That's the only good thing about Rogue is you have to actually still play defensively good. It's not like other classes where you don't have to play good at all. Assassination Rogue is one of the best rogue specs in the game right now, but it's also a really good spec in general. The next one we have is Outlaw Rogue. Outlaw is actually really good. Um, I would say it's better than Enhance and Demo, but I think Frost Mage and Boomy are going to be way better in Solo Shuffle just in general. Uh, Outlaw shines with depending on what it's playing with. It can work with a lot of comms, but it's also just a dampener. You need a dampener spec with you because Outlaw Rogue's not it's not meant to win in the opener. You're meant to be you have just so many you have unlimited cooldowns to go through, and you're eventually gonna die in dampening. But you may just like you do good burst, and you have really good defensive cooldowns. So really good. You'll see a good amount of Outlaws. I rarely face them, but I do see some at high rated. The next one we have is Sub Rogue. Sub Rogue is god awful. Um, Yeah, it's just really bad. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I've faced a sub rogue in almost. Yeah, I've never faced a sub rogue. I faced one in 3v3 arena. And I think it was Born Filthy, and he's just playing RMP, which you can always make that work. But in general, it's just not gonna be good. It's way too based off your burst, and then your burst is like mediocre. Like you do a good amount of burst damage, but then you do nothing afterwards. Nobody wants to play a class that does no damage off their burst, especially when the burst is like everyone has 9 CDs. So what are you gonna do? I do my burst rotation. You trade one of your 9 CDs, and then 10 minutes later I can finally do anything. No, nobody's gonna want to play that. So unfortunately, I think sub is definitely better than Fire Mage and Aug, but they're all in the same category. They're just all garbage. The next one we have is Ret Paladin, which is actually really, really good. Um, Ret Paladins have, again, everything. Damage, heal, off healing, support, defensive cooldowns. They just have everything. They have a ton of burst. They have a ton of cooldowns. They're a support class. One of the best support classes in the entire game. You have Sync, Bop, Sack, Magic Bop if you choose. You have Lay on Hands. You have Bubble. You have your own Trinket Wall. It's just so many cooldowns, and that's just you. So automatically that easily makes you A plus tier, if not S tier. It could easily be low S, easily. And if it just got if it got one more buff, just like at 3%, it would be S tier. But I don't think it's quite there yet. I think it's really, really good, but I think it's so close to being there. The next one we have is H-Pal, which I would say is the best back in the entire game. Um, I know Crusader says, other classes like Mistweaver are broken, but in general, there's a reason you see H-Pal every single game in 3v3 and 2s and solo shuffle. They're just good. They're just really good. Lightsmith is the way to go. It's a broken. I mean, I actually liked Lightsmith. I used to not like it, but now I kind of like, it's builded on. It was just I didn't like it at first. Now I like it, and it's probably gonna get nerfed. But oh well. Still, H-Trial is gonna be your number one healer, if not number two. So even if Evoker is better, it doesn't really matter. They're in the same category. The next one we have is Frost DK. Frost DK is insane. I would say it's um I would probably put it mm, probably here. So the reason I'm putting Frost DK lower this time is because I'm not looking at it in the sense of its damage, but it's okay. Think of it like this: so Frost DKs can almost win every round. There are a few things like you can see. It matters who the DK is, and it matters what you're facing. Frost DK in general is insanely OP, but it's super based off your burst. If you mess up your burst, if you get grounded, or if you mess it up at all, it's just really, really hard to get everything off without anything going wrong. And even if you do get it right, there's not a you could still you only have 2 goes before you're dead because you have to use your defensive cooldowns offensive in order to get your goes off. So it's kind of like you're a glass cannon. You're good, but at the same time, you're also really glassy. So automatically makes it better than Demo and Enhance. But I think Outlaw, Frost, Rat, and Boomy are just overall going to be better. You're going to see a lot more of those than you would Frost DKs, but that's my own opinion. The next one we have is Mistweaver, which is going to be, if I had to legitimately put it somewhere, I would probably be right here. Orb is a really good cooldown, and having, Port as well is, again, a really, really good cooldown. It does a lot of healing. You can play Fistweaver, and you can play the other one, so there's 2 builds with this that you can play. So, you can base on it, depending on what you're facing. But, um, just really good. I'd say again a 6% buff on every healing, instantly S tier. It's just I think they're a little bit short just because overall they're just not really that good in dampening. Now if their orb didn't get affected by dampening like H-Files Land Hands is, it's a whole different story. But that's pretty much that. The next one we have is Holy Priest, which is the worst healer in the entire game, just god awful. There's no debate. It does a good amount of healing. It has Angel form, but it's not gonna be able to heal the overall damage everyone's able to put out. And then defensively wise, it's just not that good. It doesn't really have any defensive cooldown other than the Angel for themselves and Guardian, which doesn't even take. It's just useless. You do a good amount of burst healing, but off that you're gonna get stumped. So that's pretty much that one. The next one we have is DH. DH kind of just sucks. It does really good on its burst, but then off its burst, it's no. You can make it work, but overall, it's just not going to be that good. I would say it's probably better than survival, but like worse than arms and arcane. DH is just not. I mean, it does a good amount of burst. Don't get me wrong, and it can keep up with damage, but it dies really, really quick. It's no way. It's not going to be able to dampen like it used to be, because you're not putting out enough DPS 24/7 to where you're literally doubling like a DH and Dragonflight. That's a whole different story. Because they're doing, if they change this back, they would be doing 15 times the damage they were doing right now. That's how strong that class was. Because it was killing everybody 24/7. So it may be in the glory in the future, but who knows. The next one we have is Disc Priest, which is going to be your third to best healer in the S tier lobby or bracket. You have defensive cooldowns. You have a lot of things that stop CC. You have okay damage, not really about the damage, but you have okay healing. Again, I would say it's the number 3rd in spot. You can argue saying one of these are, the Mistweaver Wrestler is better, but for now, Disc Race is really good. It can compete with these guys, so it's still S tier for now. The next one we have is Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest, I would say, is better than the rest of these guys here, but not better than Boomy and Rat. Boomy just has 10 times the burst damage. Having 2 incarns and Cyclone is just an automatically goated spec, and then Rat Paladin just has everything. It's literally it's the best support class in the game. So SP is not gonna be able to keep up. Boomy and Ret are gonna be. You're gonna see these guys way more than you would any other of these specs right here, and I can promise you that. The next one we have is going to be Windwalker Monk. Windwalker is actually doing a lot better than it was. I would say it's better than Frost DK and Enhance and Demo, but not better than the other guys, because these ones do consistency and they bring something to the table. Windwalker's just a powerhouse. It just goes in, clicks burst, it has a little bit of CC, but otherwise it does absolutely nothing. You're just a full damage. You're not really doing anything else. That's about it. And then we have Unholy DK. Unholy DK is actually a lot better than it was. I would say Unholy DK is actually better than Frost DK and Enhance and Demo. You can argue that Frost DK might be better, but I'd argue that Unholy DK is going to do a lot more damage than a Frost DK. Unholy DKs, they do a lot of damage now. They can keep up. They can do top damage pretty easily. They just do a lot of damage. After their buffs, they do a lot of burst damage, and they not only do a lot of burst and have like really potential kill, because when they get low, they're able to do this execute that literally kills them from 30 to 0. They do a lot more damage. So they're up there in the list here. But this is my solo shuffle tier list. Let me know what you guys want to see next. But it's been X, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, peace.